Hey everybody, it's Jake with the DIA guys, and got a quick video here for you about brakes and the importance of checking out any squeals or squeaks or creaks or things like that that you have with your braking system. Okay, so I've got the rear rotor of a vehicle that I just did a brake job on set up here, and I've also got the 4 pads that came off that vehicle. And I'm gonna kind of show these pads and talk about these pads and and the rotor, talk about the importance of changing out the brakes. Now, these pads came off of the rear of the vehicle that we just finished a brake job on. Okay, and as you can see, the pads here on your left are in good shape. They're actually not worn out. They've got more life left in them. And the set of pads here on your right obviously are worn out. And other than, well, the reason why I know this is because if you look here on this pad, this pad in particular, this little thing right here is called a wear indicator. Okay, and as you can see, the wear indicator is not on the same plane as your friction material for your brake pad. Okay, now the purpose of this wear indicator is very, very important, because this is what's going to give you that noise when you're braking and indicate that there's something that you need. Well, it could be one of the reasons why. It'll give you a noise when you're braking and be an indication that you need to take a look at your braking system. Okay, so here's our rotor that came off of our vehicle, and I'll just kind of demonstrate how the disc brakes work. So there's some things that are missing here. You've got the caliper that's missing, and you've got the caliper frame that's missing for this particular vehicle. But the way it works is you've got your rotor and you've got your 2 disc brake pads. Okay, so your 2 disc brake pads are mounted in your caliper, and they sit on either side of the rotor like this. And so under normal conditions, when you're driving, there's a space there. It's kind of, I'm exaggerating it, but there's a slight gap in the rotor and the pads. And then when you apply the brake, the hydraulic pressure from the caliper and the master cylinder pushes on these pads, and it clamps against the rotor and gives you your clamping force. Okay, so the amount of force, clamping force you get is obviously, it's relative to the hydraulic force plus your friction material, and then the friction surface you have on your pad, on your rotor as well. Now, in this particular case, earlier I talked about the wear indicator. So you can see how when the pad is mounted, you see that? You can see how when the pad is mounted on the rotor, that wear indicator, there's a gap there. And so there's no issue with these pads, and these pads actually have pretty good life left in them. Now, what happens though is when this rotor the pads wear down to the point that the wear indicator is rubbing, the wear indicator is going to rub against the surface of the rotor, and you're going to get some kind of a metal sound. So I'm going to try to demonstrate it here. Okay, so you're going to get that kind of metal sound. And it's going to be more pronounced when you're driving the vehicle, because it's going to be really, really squeaky. And so that's the reason why you want to check out your brakes as quickly as possible when you hear noise like that, because if you catch it soon enough, you won't have to replace your rotor. You can just simply change out your pads, and you should be in good shape. Now, in this particular case, if you'll see, these rotors were run way, way, way too long. And the disc brake pad, as you can see, the friction material is totally gone on it. So it was actually wearing into the backing. So we had steel on steel contact here, like this, with this braking system, which is very bad. So that actually reduces your braking force, because this isn't really meant to be friction material, and it obviously tears up your rotor. Okay, so you can see this rotor is absolutely destroyed here. And then this is what, turn on the other side, this is kind of what the rotor should look like under normal wear. Okay, so you can see this rotor is absolutely destroyed. So this resulted in having to actually go and replace these rotors. These rotors weren't very expensive. They were $92 a piece, but that's $92 that you don't have to spend if you catch your pads in time when you start to hear some squeaky noises and get them replaced. Now, the other thing I want to talk about too with these pads is the wear levels of the pads. Okay, so you can see these 2 pads came off the passenger side rear. These 2 pads came off the driver's side rear. And if you notice, on both of the pads, the wear is significantly different. Okay, so one of the concerns that I have is that the caliper on the driver's side rear is sticking, and the caliper, versus the caliper on the passenger side rear. It looks like it's performing correctly. Now, during the brake job, you have to push the caliper back in, or the piston back into the caliper, so you can install the brakes. And I didn't notice any sticking there. And when we put the pads on the vehicle and pumped the brakes, I also didn't get any sticking where there was significant dragging of the tire, where you couldn't spin it once you pump the brakes. So this is something I'm going to be inspecting and looking at on this vehicle. I'll bring it back in and we'll tear it down and we'll look at it to just kind of see what's going on and check it again and make sure it's not sticking. But I just want to point that out too. If you're ever doing a brake job, it's really important to take a look at the wear of your pads, the relative wear of your pads, and they should be fairly equal, indicating that you've got good, even pressure, and there's no sticking or dragging on any of your calipers. All right, so this has been Jake with the DIA, guys. Thanks for joining me on this video. Just a real quick overview of some things I encountered in a recent brake job that I did that hopefully will be helpful for you. Talk about the importance of making sure that you check your brakes out whenever you have any squealing, how that can save you money on performing a brake job, but also the importance of inspecting your brakes once you take them off, and look for even wear, and look for any kind of indication of additional issues you might have with your vehicle and other things you might have to replace in order to fully repair the brakes on your vehicle. So hopefully this is helpful to you. If this is helpful to you, I appreciate it if you like it and subscribe to it. Subscribe to the channel. We'll have more content like this coming up, and we'll catch you guys in the next video. See you guys later. Bye.